Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to the Underground. This is the emergency intel update for the 3rd of February 2023 regarding the recent U.S. airspace violations and potential threats. So right up front, sorry everyone if you kind of hear some background noise. I'm working on monitoring a few aircraft that are in kind of my area, as well as some emergency HFGCS traffic that is going out on the main U.S. Air Force frequencies. So I'm trying to keep kind of abreast as to what's going on because in case you haven't been on social media or seen what's going on over the past few days, there's been a pretty serious incident regarding Chinese incursions of U.S. airspace. So let's get right to it. Yesterday afternoon, we became publicly aware via a DoD leak to NBC News that a Chinese surveillance balloon, or possible surveillance balloon, is currently in United States airspace. It is currently over the state of Montana and has been there and has been in United States airspace for several days, according to the DoD. Right up front, just want to let everyone know that there is very little information surrounding this. The DoD is actively concealing the location of the spy device itself, alleged spy device, so we don't really know much about it. We're also making the assumption that the aircraft itself is unmanned, and we're making the assumption that it is a surveillance device. We don't know if there's any kind of weapon on board. The question hasn't really been broached, apparently, or I haven't seen anybody really kind of raise that question as to, is this thing armed? Is this a weapon? Is this a first strike capable device that is now, hovering over American airspace? So as we can see, there are really kind of a lot of unknowns, but we're going to most certainly be tracking this because it is a very, very significant incident. I also want to mention that Canadian defense officials earlier this morning / last night made the announcement that there is a potential second balloon inbound to American airspace. So apparently that one's over Canada right now. We, again, don't know much about it. We don't have any pictures of it. Again, Canadian defense officials are they haven't said at all where it is. So there's kind of a lot of unknowns as to what's going on right now. As far as what the U.S. military response has been, the DoD press statements have indicated that they discussed originally shooting the balloon down, but decided against that due to the potential to harm people on the ground with debris, because this device, this aircraft, is very, very large. Now, I would like to point out, which is what everyone with common sense in the United States has pointed out, which is Montana, where the balloon is currently, is one of the least populated areas of the United States. So if you had to pick a place for this balloon to be kinetically engaged, to be shot down with a missile or by aircraft, this is one of the places you would pick, because it's one of the least populated places, the safest place to down a hostile aircraft. So I'm sorry if I'm kind of jumping ahead a little bit. I'm still trying to wrap my mind around what's going on because, again, this is a very serious incident, and I've tried to kind of bring my own thoughts into some kind of solidification on this to be a little bit more coherent, but I'm afraid that this is kind of shocking to me. So I don't think we've ever seen anything like this. Usually airspace incursions involve shooting down the aircraft, right? This is why we have a sovereign nation. That's what part of being a sovereign nation is. We engage potential threats to the homeland, and right now there is a direct, clear, and present danger, a direct threat to the U.S. homeland over American soil right now, and we're apparently not going to be doing anything about it. As far as what the DoD is going to do in the future and what they're doing right now, so let me address what they're doing right now first. Right now, there are pretty much every intelligence collection sensor that the United States has is in the air and around that area. Yesterday and slightly this morning, I think, there were 3 Stratotanker aircraft parked over the western part of Montana and just kind of the region, which were intended to refuel almost certainly the fighter aircraft that are probably orbiting this bad boy quite a lot. So there are also a few rivet joint aircraft, a few RC-135s, circling the area. I've seen at least 2. I've also personally noticed an E3 Sentry off the East Coast and several P8 Poseidons doing unknown stuff off the East Coast as well. I picked those up with my own sensors. So yeah, a lot of activity. This is a big deal, as one might expect. One of the more concerning aircraft to be in the air yesterday, I noticed, was also an E4B. This is the aircraft that serves as the National Airborne Operations Center and is basically the command center for World War III. So when these kind of aircraft get up and going, the AACP, the Advanced Airborne Command Post, when it gets up and going, this is kind of a big deal. We never want to see night watch aircraft in the air. It's fairly regular. We used to have these in the air a lot more often than we have lately, but obviously this is one of those incidents where we put up our break glass in case of World War III assets, and those assets are most certainly in the skies over the United States right now, as one might expect. So as far as what the DoD is planning to do with this, there are currently no plans that we're aware of to shoot this thing down, and it looks like we might just be letting it make its way through U.S. airspace. So I don't know if that's going to happen or not, but based on the wind charts that we've seen from NOAA, it looks like it's going to be over some fairly populated areas pretty soon. That is, if it is in fact unguided. My sneaking suspicion is that it's probably got some kind of station keeping. You don't put a surveillance aircraft up in the sky that's the size of 3 school buses and just kind of let it go where the wind takes it. Now, there's going to be some kind of control method on board. That's just my guess. So a lot of information to unpack. This is very much a developing situation. So all of that being said, I want to take a moment to kind of bring things back and kind of calm things down a little bit, because I've said a lot of scary stuff, admittedly so, with regards to this incident, and I will admit it is a very, very concerning incident. I don't think that we have seen an incident this concerning, especially with regards to China, in my lifetime. So this is a once-in-a-lifetime kind of thing. And it's one thing for a Bear, Tu-95 to be off our coast. It's another thing for a Tu-142 to be doing some stuff in Europe. But this is way more concerning than any of that. So with all of that being said, I just want to bring things back to kind of a more central location, I guess, and say that I'm not exactly looking for missiles to be flying through the air. I'm not looking for nuclear attacks in the next 24 hours or so. But again, this is the kind of thing you might expect if that was the case, right? Sending over very sophisticated aircraft to another nation's homeland airspace deep inside their terrain. We haven't done this stuff since the Francis Gary Powers shoot down incident, right? So that's the last serious incident like this. I mean, even we had the P3 incident, the Hainan Island incident, specifically with China. We weren't even flying in their airspace, and they clipped one of our P3s a few years ago, and that caused a big international incident that kind of got a lot of people worried about the potential for an open conflict between the U.S. and China. And this right here is a huge, huge escalation. I don't think we've seen an escalation like this since the Cuban Missile Crisis. And even then, the Cuban Missile Crisis was just Khrushchev trying to park some, missiles 90 miles off the coast of Florida perfectly legally. There's nothing internationally wrong with doing that at the time. Now we have airspace violations deep into the heartland of a sovereign nation. Every single nation on Earth that is a sovereign nation would be concerned with this and would have taken steps to defend themselves from this potential threat. Now, I want to address some concerns that people might, or thoughts people might have had regarding why we haven't shot it down yet. I suppose the main theory that is, I guess, common sense is that we might not want to shoot it down now because it's probably too late to shoot it down anyway, because it's already got the information and intelligence collected that it wanted. So really we want to try to capture it and see what's on board. That's not a bad theory. However, I think that kind of goes right out the window when it violates American airspace, right? If we were to capture this thing before it made its way over our nuclear fields in Montana, our nuclear launch sites, our missile silos, if we had intercepted it before that, maybe that would have been a better idea than letting it get this far. Look, I'm an intel guy, and I understand the impact that this would have. We've gone through an awful lot of effort to recover Soviet submarines or Soviet helicopters, right? We've gone through an awful lot of effort in the past to get this technology. So something like this is a really juicy target for intelligence assets here in the United States, so that they can exploit it and figure out what China was up to and stuff like that, right? However, even me, the intel guy whose job it would be to do something like that, says we're out of that, right? We're out of that. This is now a direct threat to the homeland, and we should have engaged this thing long before it got over land. That's just my own personal opinion on it. And that's not even really an opinion. That's just how things are. A sovereign nation gets their airspace violated, they shoot it down no matter what it is, right? So all of this being considered, I'm trying to be as realistic as possible and not, spread undue panic with regards to this incident. But again, I am not perfect, and I'm having a hard time myself trying to curtail my own instinctive kinds of knowledge about these sorts of incidents, right? Again, like I've mentioned before, with regards to when something serious in the globe happens, we're off the manual, right? We are off the standard operating procedure. There is no manual for what's going on right now because we have far surpassed it. So yeah, I don't really know what to do. I don't really know what is going to happen, and all I know is that every instinct I have, for both professionally and personally, is kind of on alert right now. So as far as what the average citizen can do, there's nothing you can do for this right here. If our own Department of Defense, if our own nation is not going to protect its homeland, then I'm not really sure what American citizens can do. It's already far too high. We don't even know what altitude this thing's flying at, or the second one for that matter. We don't know what altitude it's flying at, but there are some reports that it's over 60,000 feet up. So the only thing that can shoot this thing down is a military asset, right? It's not like you're going to be hopping in a Cessna and going to town, right? So there's a component where we have to rely on our government. We have to rely on our military to defend us from foreign threats, and that's not happening right now. So this is one of those incidents where I feel like I'm taking crazy pills because I'm very concerned, more concerned than I have been in a very, very long time, and I feel like our nation's leadership and our defense leadership is not on the same page. I feel like this is one of the things that you run into. Every historian knows what I'm talking about out there. Like, if you read a history book, you know what's coming, right? So again, as far as what the average citizen can do and what the average citizen should do, I don't know. I honestly don't know. I'm sure everyone's going to want to know, hey, should I turn my cell phone off when it gets near me? I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. It's almost certainly going to collect intelligence on that, but again, if you have certain apps on your phone anyway, China has that information. I doubt that the Chinese, military is trying to surveil your cell phone. I don't think they care about you. I think they want to take pictures of nuclear missile silos. That is, if this thing is not a direct kinetic attack, which we still don't know if it is or not. We're just taking the DoD at their word that this thing is a surveillance balloon, right? And not some kind of targeting platform. And the DoD has already proven themselves to be liars. They have concealed the existence of this balloon, and they're actively concealing that location from us U.S. citizens right now. So yeah, as far as what to do, I just don't know. I don't know what to tell you. But I can tell you what I'm going to do and what I'm doing right now. So what I'm doing right now is monitoring traffic in my local area. I've got a pretty good ADS-B setup, and I can monitor a pretty good chunk of my state and several surrounding states from where I'm at right now. So I'm doing that and monitoring for any kind of U.S. military traffic. You're not going to be able, if you have an ADS-B setup, I would very strongly recommend hopping on it and making sure it works and getting everything up and going. You're not going to be able to track the balloon. The balloon is emitting no signal as far as ADS-B. So you're not going to be able to track the balloon with an ADS-B setup. However, you will be able to track all of the fueling tankers that are cutting racetracks in the skies over the United States and kind of get a general idea as to where it's at. Now, a lot of people are going to be aware of this, and I want to point out that the fueling tankers are not going to be exactly where the balloon is at. Those fueling tankers are going to be a pretty good distance away, close enough for fighter jets to refuel, but far enough away for that balloon to not pose a threat to the refueling aircraft, right? This is standard warfare 101 kind of stuff. As far as other signals to monitor, I can guarantee you that balloon is communicating with something, and the U.S. military is very well aware of that. Otherwise, they would not have put up rivet joint and E-6B aircraft. So Obviously, there's some kind of component, SIGINT collection opportunity here with regards to that balloon, and you, the private citizen, might be able to pick up something as well. So if you have a wideband SDR and a directional antenna, you can probably collect intelligence on this balloon as it's flying over the United States. That is, assuming your equipment doesn't get fried by the jamming assets that are almost certainly being used right now surrounding that balloon. Again, this is all speculation. We don't really know what the DoD is doing. All we can do is monitor the aircraft that have taken off and responded. And as far as one might expect, there have been a significant amount of intelligence collection assets over U.S. soil over the past few days regarding this balloon. So, another thing to monitor is other traffic. So I'm also monitoring traffic here on the East Coast, mostly because I can, and trying to see what other things might be lurking. If this balloon is trying to transit its way through the United States, it's going to have to make it back to China somehow, and it might be trying to meet up with a ship out in the Atlantic Ocean. So keeping an eye on AIS tracking any kind of Chinese asset. If they were bold enough to send a freaking balloon to the United States, to our airspace, then they're probably going to be bold enough to recover it right, in front of our faces with a Chinese flagged vessel or some kind of PRC registered vessel off the East Coast. So, again, that's, if that's what they want to do. It may just fly all the way back to China in a few weeks. Who knows? Something also to keep in mind, obviously, would be Taiwan. This could be a prelude to the conflict with Taiwan kicking off, and it could be a message to the United States to not get involved with what's going on there or what's about to go on there. Again, pure speculation. Nobody really knows. As far as the stoplight chart I was working on, I haven't really seen any kind of indications and warnings that war is imminent, but there have been several indications and warnings of a conflict in the near future. So there have been quite a few exercises and drills and increasingly aggressive flight patterns from China in the Taiwan Strait and around the nation of Taiwan. I, like many of you, are trying to figure out what the end game is here. We don't really know what is going on, but I myself am kind of focused on the direct threat, the clear and present danger that this device, whatever it is, poses to the American people. Again, I'm sorry if this seems a bit, over the top, or if you disagree with the threat that the potential threat that this device, this aircraft poses. I know a lot of people out there are going to say this is not that big of a deal, they're going to say that it's, a super big deal. I understand there's going to be varying levels of assessment out there with regards to how serious this incident is. I can only tell you my thoughts on it, and we've gotten to the point in the world where things happen that are so scary that you don't even want to report on them because people will point the finger at you and say that you're fear-mongering or something like that. Well, there's no way on this earth that I could have briefed this topic without someone pointing the finger at me and saying that this is fear-mongering, because I tell you, it's a pretty serious incident. So it's made more serious every day that this thing is not engaged. So again, sorry, there really isn't much more information about the balloon right now. There's really not a whole lot to go off of. We're really, this is one of those incidents where the average American citizen is having to dip their toe into international defense, right? We're here now, and it's kind of a shaky ground for all of us, I think. I know that I most certainly did not have this incident on my 2023 bingo card, although it most certainly is now. So I guess we'll just have to kind of play it by ear and see what happens. Again, we don't know where the balloon's going. We can kind of generally predict where it's going based off of wind charts, but again, if this thing is this big, I'm going to bet it's got some station keeping assets on board, some kind of propulsion of something. It may generally be following the wind to conserve fuel or electricity, but for the most part, I would be willing to bet that this thing isn't going to go exactly where the wind is pushing it. So we'll see, though. We'll have to see how it goes. Again, the kind of action plan moving forward is to monitor ADS-B, keep an eye on the skies above us, at least with regards to American platforms that we can kind of keep an eye on. Going to also be keeping an eye on AIS transmissions, at least the ones that we can detect. We're not going to detect them that far out, but at least we can do something there. And also, we're going to try to keep an eye on what kind of signals are coming from or going to that aircraft as it flies over the United States. So, again, just monitoring things is basically the only thing we can do, and being aware of where it generally is would be advised. If you are generally in the area, I know this is a very sparsely populated part of the United States, but if you're generally in the area, I would try to keep an eye on it visually, because you can see it even though it's, again, at least over 60,000 feet up. So yeah, that's pretty much all I've got for now. I know it's not a whole lot, but I guess we'll have to see what happens here with this. I'll try to keep you updated as much as possible. Like clockwork, this kind of incident happened to hit me personally and the rest of the team here at kind of a very busy and inopportune time. So this is not been super great as usual, but I guess it's a great training exercise for when foreign assets invade the United States, airspace at least. So again, things I thought I would never say in my life. Anyway, I guess we can only do the best we can, right? So we'll keep doing that, and we'll let you know if anything changes or any major developments with regards to this balloon. Hopefully, we'll be able to get a pretty good location on it soon, but no guarantees on any of this stuff. But thanks again for watching, everybody. Thank you for your support, and hopefully we can all kind of get through this incident as unscathed as possible, I guess, is the way we should phrase it. Anyway, thanks again, and we'll see you next time. And as always, and I guess these days perhaps possibly literally, fight in the shade.